Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, species around the multiverse, welcome to Geek Syndicate. For what we doing, we are bringing the sass back to geekdom. We're Monts and Nuge. I am Monts and he...
Well, obviously, if you're Monts, that makes me Nuge.
Yeah, well, hope so. You never know, man. In that 5 seconds gap, anything could have happened. That's the kind of world we live in.
I'd like to confirm that I am Nuge. I'm not an evil doppelganger. I'm not a Skrull.
But that's what you would say, though. See, you got no answer for that. I've bamboozled you with logic.
I don't have a beard.
Okay, fair enough. All right. That settles it. That's all right.
Jobs are good.
Yeah, jobs are good.
One day I am gonna grow a beard just to like mess with people.
And then all bets are off. Well, you know what? So again, like Siobhan and I watching all the Marvel Cinematic Universe sort of movies, which we're up to date now. We've watched them all.
Okay. Nice.
And I think the last I always mix up Avengers and Captain America because Captain America movies are practically the Avengers anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it was Civil War where Tony Stark had some dodgy beard. I mean, proper dodgy. And I was like, you know what? I could do a dodgy beard of my own. So I'm like, yeah, I've kind of got an odd design going on at the moment. And I kind of did it as a bit of a joke.
Right.
And I quite like it. So I haven't got rid of it like in a few weeks. But it's interesting because like it's obvious. But when I meet people like I know and they go, you can see them look and they don't say anything, which usually means that they think it looks ridiculous.
To be fair though, if I see it and it looks ridiculous, I will say it looks ridiculous.
No, I know. I know there's people you can depend on in this world, B, and I know you're one of them.
That's right. So, I always give it to you straight. You know the score.
Yeah. In
fact, I could even say, without even seeing the beard, that I'm fairly sure it's going to look ridiculous.
I did have one comment, which is, "What's with your beard?" So yeah, thanks Tony for the inspiration.
Nice.
Or should I say, Robert DJ?
I was going to say something. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, speaking of revisiting stuff.
Right.
So shout outs. Moving on.
Shout out to my ex. You're really quite a man.
It's not funny.
Okay.
It's not big, it's not clever, and it's really not funny. So, do you really have any shout outs?
No.
Okay. So, I would like to give a shout out to our lovely Patreon members.
What's up?
Yeah, what's up? Who've been kindly donating to keep GS running. Last episode, I did not mention them by name, which was an oversight by myself, which I'm going to rectify right now. So, Derek Coward, Andrew Smith, Brian Manning, Amy J. McGarry Fickett, aka Little Witch, Mark Goodman, Daniel Romeo Brown, cool name, Dion Winton Pollack, Toria, Kim Curran Goodson, Darren Cook, Vicky Tree, and Nick Dre. Many thanks for your Patreon support and just your support of the show. It is much appreciated, and because of you guys, or because of you folks, we are still on the air.
There you go.
Yeah. And if you want to get involved, if you want to donate something to the GS cause, then check out our Patreon page. I will put a link in the show notes, and you can subscribe for as little as $1, which is about 50 pence. I don't know rates and stuff. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for that.
Yeah, for that.
Yeah. Cool. So, time for the show.
Yeah.
So I just want to start with saying thanks to B.
Sorry, hang on a second. Could you just say that again?
I just want to say thanks.
Right. This is a wind-up, isn't it?
No, you put me on. It's not April Fool's Day.
Okay.
That's done. No, you put me onto a movie on Amazon called The Wave.
Ah, yes.
Siobhan and I sat and watched it the other night.
Yep.
Oh my God, that film is intense.
I told you, didn't I?
Because the thing about it is, I can't remember how you described it last time we talked about it. This is a Norwegian disaster movie based on a small town. So it's not like this huge end of the world stuff. It's the end of the world for this small town. Based on something that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an if, it's when. There's a number of places in Norway where the mountains have had a landslide into the fjords, which has caused a tsunami, wiping out small villages and towns in the going up the river. And it's happened a couple of times. And this particular mountain, this particular fjord, all the experts say it's going to happen again. They just don't know when. And they reckon that, you got like 10-minute warning once it happens to get everybody to high ground. So that's the movie right there, because this guy has made a disaster movie about this thing, which is going to happen. And that just added all the tension as well.
Yeah.
And then you're watching it and it's like the first half hour, nothing really happens, but it's going to happen. And the tension of waiting is killing you.
Yeah.
And then when it does happen, it's just on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joey.
Oh man, there was a couple of dumb moves in there.
Yeah.
But not many, but you can see it happening in real life.
Did you see the bit I was talking about where she's trying to clear out the hotel?
Yep. But even like there's a bit when like they're all trying to drive to high ground.
Yeah.
And there's a traffic jam and the dude starts running. He goes, get out of your cars, we got to run. And like nobody wasted any time.
No.
I was like, exactly. Man, them Nordic people, they don't mess it. They're as stupid as the Americans and the English. You know what I mean? They're just like, they ain't arguing. Yeah, okay.
Everybody, and the thing is as well, there was none of that kind of stunt running. Everyone was chipping.
People were running for their lives, man. Pure fear going on.
I also discovered a little tidbit after watching the film. I can't remember if I told you this or not, but because of budget,
they all did their own stunts, didn't they?
Including a couple of them having to learn how to hold their breath for like 4 minutes underwater. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I saw that dude trained with free divers.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
And when you see the sequence, and I won't spoil it for people because if you're into disaster films, you should watch this film. When you see that sequence and then you realise that
they actually did it.
It just puts a whole other level of danger on that.
Things I knew that going in.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was holding my breath for the thing. And I was like, you know what? Sitting there holding my breath on the sofa is one thing, but dude's trying to do stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's a time constraint going on as well.
I was like, oh, man.
Also, I think what was really good about the film was like, they just came across as like ordinary people.
Ordinary people. Yeah.
Because, as much as I love like, you know what I mean, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, you know what I mean, in these films and stuff, he's not an ordinary dude. Do you know what I mean?
Just like, seriously, you all have left it too. I'm like, it's got 10 minutes, get the guests out. Oh, you know what? I'll shout up the corridor, but then I'm gone. Do you know what I mean? I ain't going door to door. Do you know what I mean? Only got 10 minutes. Yo, we gotta go. I hope there's no heavy sleepers.
I mean, it's just
I'd have to live with the guilt, you know.
I think what's good about that, and we can talk about it, what's good about that film compared to some of the disaster movies is that it tells you up front that when the disaster actually does come, they're going to only have 10 minutes to deal with it.
Yeah.
And there isn't there's no magical thing that they can do that's going to stop the disaster. There's no giant bomb if they detonate over there that's going to deflect the... No.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no two ways about it.
If this happens, it happens. The town's done. All we can do is get out of harm's way. And we're only going to have 10 minutes warning to do that. And the fact that they're so trained up, so the people in the village, the minute they hear that siren thing, everybody's on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously they need to come up, maybe build another motorway or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? For real.
Because it's not happening, is it?
I was like, he's going here. Leave your stuff. You ain't got time to pack. I was like,
that's how you do a disaster film, man.
It is. You don't need to go huge stakes. You know what I mean? They're huge stakes for the people involved. You know what I mean? That's all you need.
But sometimes I think with the weight of CG now, just because you've got all this technology doesn't mean to say you have to do it. And I think the problem is when you got so much CG, it just feels less. The stakes feel less real.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. When you rewatch things like 2012, or it just seems like you're watching a cartoon. It just doesn't. feel like you don't get any sort of sense of like emotion. It doesn't bring up
sort of personal. Yeah. It's just too big to take in.
On my on Amazon, Tower of Inferno popped up, so I've added that onto my.
Do you know what? I was just saying I've got a hankering to watch Tower of Inferno and the original Poseidon adventure.
Because that's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, man. And when you actually think to them films as well, the stakes in those films are relatively, because Poseidon was only a group of people.
I know, but it's like when one person from that group buys it, for some reason you feel it.
Yeah. But there's a piece in that first Poseidon one, I'll never forget it, where like he's trying to, I don't care, in terms of like disaster movie heroes, you got your Gene Hackman, Steve McQueen, your Paul Newman, then you got your Rock. I love him, but them boys, because there's a piece where Gene Hackman's trying to convince them all to come with him. Remember it?
Yeah.
There's a whole ballroom full of people, and they're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. We're going to stay with the person. You don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I'm telling you, man, this is only going to get worse. No. And there was literally 6 of them, and there must have been about 200 people down there. And then the minute he's about to go in it, the water comes in, and everyone's trying to climb up the Christmas tree. Like, one at a time, and it all just falls. And you see him just like close the door. You see him just like, damn. Yeah, I mean...
oh, man, I've got to get that. Oh, okay.
I've got to get on that, man. I've got to get on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, right.
But why would it? One more film.
Yep.
And then you got a TV thing, and then we're going to do comics, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so just quickly, because you mentioned The Rock, I watched Jumanji. I loved it.
So, I watched Jumanji with The Rock, and did you know that, I don't think it's being shot yet. I don't know when it's being shot, but you know he's been cast as Doc Savage.
Has he?
Yeah, this is a couple of. I don't know if it's still going ahead because it was supposed to be being done by Shane Black, and yeah, The Rock was cast as Doc Savage, and I was a bit unsure, and then I watched Jumanji, and I'm like, yeah,
okay,
yeah, all over it.
So basically, it's an update in that it's a sequel to the Robin Williams, but it's an update in that Jumanji updates itself for the modern generation and becomes a video game and pulls people into the video game. So it pulls these teenagers in. And what I loved about it was that those teenagers are only in the movie for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I felt like I knew them because the adult actors managed to embody those teenagers so well.
Yeah.
That I was like, I believed they were teenagers and not the actors that they were.
Yeah. I mean, it was they did a fantastic
so impressed.
job. Yeah.
So impressed.
It would have been so easy for that to have gone wrong. That idea to have gone wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought they nailed it. They nailed it without being too. Even though the film's over the top, but actually their performances weren't over the top.
Yeah.
So like Jack Black was basically playing a 16-year-old girl.
I know, it's so good, so good.
But you bought it.
You bought it
because he didn't go over the top with it.
And also, you got Karen Gillan, who's just looking hot.
Yeah.
And she just played this kind of unconfident teenage girl.
Yeah.
And she just played it so well. She's there in this little crop top and a tiny skirt, and she looked so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was just, I just bought it.
Obviously, the lion's share of the jokes for me came from Kevin Hart and Rock. Just
yeah, it was just great. It was like, because my weakness is cake.
It's when you discover what cake actually does to him as well.
Oh man!
But yeah, no, it was a great proper action adventure film, man.
Yeah.
And as someone who plays a lot of video games, the way they integrated the video game elements into it made perfect sense.
They did.
So even the bit they get picked up by a guy and he keeps repeating the same stuff, and they go, "Yeah, he's just a non-player."
He's an NPC. I was like,
yeah. And there's another bit where he's telling a story and it sort of cuts somewhere else. They go, "Oh yeah, this is the cut scene." And I was just like, yeah, it was. They put a lot of. For something that's a light-hearted comedy, they put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah, they did.
And I've heard that they're doing another one, which I'm all for that. But yeah, it was good. As I said,
it was just fun.
Yeah, it's just nice to watch something where you just end up with a smile on your face.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't get enough of that these days.
Yep.
So, cool. Okay.
All right.
So I want to just talk quickly, because we do want to talk comics, but I want to talk quickly about TV show, mainly because, well, actually, before I say that, I watched Jessica Jones season. No, I'll talk about it next week. So it was Bank Holiday Monday. We were desperate to watch something. And in the end, I was just like, I'm just going to chuck something random on. And I'd been listening to a podcast that had recommended this TV show. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And the show's called Travelers. Have you heard of it?
Rings a bell. Has it come up on Netflix?
Yeah, it's a Netflix show.
I think I've seen it and thought that looks interesting. I'd like to check that out.
So I was just trying to get my head around the idea to try to describe it. So basically, the blurb on IMDb is hundreds of years from now, surviving humans discover how to send consciousness back through time into people of the 21st century while attempting to save humanity from a terrible future.
Okay.
So what it is, so it basically starts with this woman's being attacked and this other woman tries to help her, and then she runs into this building, falls over and hits her head. And the woman who falls over and hits her head, she's kind of got learning difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this like little countdown, and it says something like time of death or something like that, and it's counting down to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see her sort of like holding her head, and these guys are surrounding her as well. You see her holding her head and screaming. And these guys are like, what the hell's going on, you know? And then it hits 0, and she opens her eyes, and then the countdown sort of changes colour, and it's like it's counting up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then she stands up, and she's like a completely different person. And she kicks, basically, she's got, martial arts, whatever, and she kicks all these guys' asses and stuff. And then you see this scene happen in different ways. Like another set, there's like a junkie, and again, you have the countdown, and you see him like injecting himself, and then he then wakes up, he's a different person, and it goes round and round and round. And what it is these people are coming back from the future, but what they're doing is they are going into the bodies of people who would die anyway.
Right, okay.
But what they're doing is they're going in just before they would have died.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? So, like, if you,
yeah.
So effectively stopping them from killing themselves by raising that consciousness, because that consciousness would have died, and then replaced it with their own consciousness. So if you think kind of like Quantum Leap style, a little bit.
Yeah.
Except they ain't leaping nowhere because they're dead. And it's basically all about these people trying to change the course of human history to prevent this catastrophe, which basically messes up the future.
Damn, you got to be dedicated to the mission for that kind of sacrifice.
It gets worse, because basically you have they're almost like this. Think of them like terrorist cells. They're almost like cells, and each cell doesn't know what another cell is doing.
Yeah.
And each one, and all that happens is you just get given a mission to do, but you don't know what, you might be asked to go and pick up a box and take it somewhere else. You might be asked to kidnap someone, or you might be asked to just do something random. You don't really know why you're doing it.
Mm.
But it's all these little, and basically back in the future, there's this person called a director. You don't see any future stuff, but there's a person called a director who's organising it all. And that person has the whole plan, if you get what I mean, of what they need to do. So this ain't a case of like John Connor, where it's literally all you got to do is go back in time and stop the Terminator from killing John Connor. There's a whole load of things that they got to do.
Right.
And what I love about it is that it's not just the one team.
Yeah.
Their teams, there's basically thousands of these people have come back, and they're all over the world.
So who's decided what it is that they need to do to save the world?
That's what I mean. It's this director person. I don't know who that you haven't seen.
But how do we know we can trust this director person?
This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of intricate stuff that goes on, and each team is set up with the same members, as in you have a team leader. I'm still watching it, so I haven't quite worked out who's who.
How far are you in?
So it's just been picked up, but for a third season, I've watched, I think, 8 episodes back to back yesterday.
Wow, okay.
And we should tell you what I thought of it. But you've got a team leader, you've got a tactician, you've got a historian, you've got a doctor. I'm not quite sure who the other one is. Maybe he's a scientist, I'm not sure. But every team has the same skill set.
Right,
you know
gotcha. Yeah.
Because there's a couple you meet later on, they meet another team that have been there for a little while, and like they've lost 2 of their members and stuff like that. And it reminded me of, do you remember that Warren Ellis comic, Global Frequency?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that a little bit, where some random people would just get picked.
You are on the Global Frequency.
Yeah. And what I love about this is you have that initial setup, so we kind of focus on one team. But it's the fact that we do see them interacting with other teams, and we see other people getting picked. You know what I mean? Getting sent back. And the way some of these people are being sent back, you're just like, wow. And some of the twists already, the last episode we just watched, I can't even say it happened much, but it got to the end and I was just like, oh, damn. It's quality. It is quality. It's solid. It's a solid show. And obviously, they have these certain protocols, things they can and can't do whilst they're there. But what they also have to do is they have to live the lives that they've effectively jumped into.
Yeah.
And all of their lives have kind of got their own complications. It's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil it, you know. But it's a fantastic show.
Okay, all right.
12 episodes.
Thanks. I'll just add another one to my list.
It's 12 episodes, man, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is your show. I'm telling you.
All right, then.
Okay. So
Comics.
So, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I decided one of my favourite Marvel comics. I've got a list of like my top 10 Marvel comics, which I found quite easy to make, actually. Not comic series, I would say. And up there is Alias, which was the original sort of story of Jessica Jones.
Oh yeah, I've still not read that.
You said you watched that.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it.
Season 2.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
It got better. But overall, I was quite disappointed with it.
Oh, that's a shame.
But it did get better.
Yeah, because that season 1 was my favourite of that. Yeah. Anyway, so like I say, I loved Alias, and so I thought, right, there was a sale on Comixology, so I got the Jessica Jones, which is basically to cover up the sequel to Alias.
Okay.
So Michael Brian Bendis, and interestingly, it's kind of some of his last work before leaving Marvel.
Right.
So there's 3 trades before it ends.
Okay.
And I read the first 2, and it just went straight back into the roughness that is this woman's life. Nothing kind of goes really that well. So she's had a kid with Luke Cage in the comics.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of hunky-dory. And this one starts here where she breaks out of prison. We're talking super person prison. So she gets it. Oh no, actually she's released. She doesn't know who's bailed her out or whatever. And then she's there, and then someone in a misty night turns up and goes, seriously, Luke wants to know. You're like, he wants to know what? Where's the kid? What have you done with your daughter? And you're like, what's happened? What have I missed? And then suddenly someone else turns up and goes, you can't keep doing this. Luke's got a right to know. You're like, what? Basically, I loved it. I thought it was just as good. And I was like, how come people aren't talking about this? This is good stuff, man. I don't think it's as good as the first stuff, but then it's different. It's moved on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's more enmeshed in the mainstream of the Marvel life now. So it's going to change, but it was still good stuff. And I'm like, why are people not talking about it? I don't get it. So, I read the 2 trades. I've got 1 more left to go, which hasn't come out yet as a trade. So, just still all over it. I don't know why it hasn't got more airtime.
What's the art like?
Art it's the same. It's the original artist team.
Okay.
So I love it. The only thing that's annoyed me slightly is a lot of the covers. They've kind of done the TV version of her, and I'm like, why? Why do that? That's not who the comic's about. That's not who the comic's about. The comic's about the comic version. Leave the TV one where it is. Unless it's an attempt to get sales up or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah. But I like the comic version of her as a woman more than I do the TV version, just visually.
Right. But
there you go.
So,
not necessarily, but I would say if you're gonna read it, read the first series.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the better of the two, okay. And that's not putting the second one down.
Yeah.
So, and they have no relation to the TV show at all.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, they do, because the first one's got the Purple Man in it.
Yeah.
Which was, so it does, but it's like, there's, yeah. She's just as fucked up, whichever one you read or watch. You know what I mean? She's like,
yeah, whichever one you read, you're going to get, your angst is going to get covered.
Yeah.
Right, okay, cool. So, speaking of comic sequels, I think this is the third one. I recently read. So, remember the Porcelain comic series?
Yeah, I've read the third one.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, so this is from Improper Books. And the creators are Benjamin Reed, who's the writer, and Chris Wildgoose, who's the illustrator.
Yeah.
With colours by Andrew May, flattering by Alex Rosa, and lettering by Jim Campbell, and edited by Matt Gibbs. And I love the first two volumes of Porcelain. Anyway,
yeah.
And I sat down and read the third. Is this the third and final?
Third and final.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is called Ivory Tower.
What a journey.
Now, the blurb for this, before we get into it, is more than a decade has passed, and Lady has become a mother. Hidden behind the high walls of her tower, cut off from the world, she has sacrificed everything to keep her children safe. Set within a world that is a magical echo of her own, Ivory Tower is a story of Mother, a revolutionary who must overcome ruthless enemies and the dark secrets of her path to carve a new future for her children. As you said, what a journey.
So the first one started with her as a little girl, a little street urchin, who's adopted by this guy who lives on his own and makes sort of porcelain, which is basically sort of robots, really.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have become quite sentient. And then the second one is about her as a sort of a younger woman finding love, not so successfully, and just trying to work out how she interacts with the rest of the city. And then the third one is her as an older woman and a mother, just trying to, keep everyone safe. But the journey of her whole life. And you know what? She's been through stuff. And by this one, she's lost it.
Yeah,
because the first two volumes, you're kind of like on her side and she makes some mistakes, but you can understand it. But this one, you're like, woman, you can't see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're making things worse. But it makes sense that she's like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, obviously you wouldn't anyway, but you can't come into this without reading those first two volumes.
No.
Not just because of the fact that the story is obviously moved on and stuff like that, but it's a this is a character journey. Do you know what I'm saying? This is a beginning and an end. This is a rise and fall of a character. And almost feels it isn't, because this is a fantasy world, but it almost feels like an autobiography.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And the third volume, I mean, the one thing that unites all of these is there's a thread of darkness that runs through them all. But it's like, and it always gets to a point where they kind of double down on the darkness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And in the second volume, when they double down it, I was like, wow, well, you can't get any more darker than that.
And then
then I read volume 3 and I was like, however, on saying that, this is, we talk about comics and sometimes we just say, yeah, the art was good, the art was solid. The art in this is just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's got a real European vibe to it. And this is a great thing I love about Improper Books is they've got their own kind of house style, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And their house style is just stunning art.
Yeah. Like, yeah. But even the style of writing.
Yes.
It's just, nothing but praise.
It's like a really dark Brothers Grimm fairy tale, which is kind of what that's kind of their thing anyway. That's kind of what they're trying to do with their sort of titles, is to give this kind of dark, these, tell these kind of like dark tales and parables and stuff like that. But I mean, just wow, stunning. I mean, it's one of my books of the year.
Loved it.
That's how you're gonna, and all I'm gonna say is that's how you're gonna end the trilogy. Wow.
Oh man, wow. Having said that, I don't know if it's the end. My understanding it was the end,
that's
but
why, yeah.
I was like, what? I had to go and reread the end a few times because I just couldn't quite take it in.
No. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the flip side of that, another comic I want to talk about, because I seem to be doubling down on I seem to be seeking out a lot of comics that kind of I don't know, really bring the emotion out of me, I guess. And certainly this one did this. Now, I've talked about this already on another podcast, but I wanted to talk to you about it because I wanted to mainly recommend it to you. And it's a comic called Wired Up Wrong.
Okay.
By Rachel Smith.
Yes. Okay. I know it. I haven't read it, but I know it.
You should read it. So again, I'll read the blurb by Rachel herself, which is Wired Up Wrong is a collection of comic strips that I, comic creator Rachel Smith, made in an effort to better understand my own brain. The strips deal mainly with my struggles with anxiety, depression. Some are light-hearted, some are potent, and some are just straight-up advice. The cast of comics include yours truly, my boyfriend Adam, my cat Rufus, who has a scarf, badass, as well as two giant black dogs called Barky who follow me around, and two tiny game show hosts live inside my head. Yeah, it's a wild ride. So this comic is, if you suffer from depression or anxiety, both of which I certainly have episodes of. In fact, we were having a conversation about before we even started recording today.
Yeah.
This is the comic for you. This is the comic to read. And what I love about it is the fact that she's not trying to say, if you do this, this will make you well. That's not what it's about. What she's saying is, this is my journey. This is how I have dealt with it. These are the challenges that I face, And I certainly think that when you see how other people are dealing with things, and just knowing that other people are dealing with it and are experiencing similar things to yourself, that in itself makes you feel less alone. And we can't always turn and talk to someone about it. Sometimes just being able to sit and read something like this is brilliant, and it's funny, it's poignant, it's sad, it's amazing, and I would recommend everyone read it.
No, do you know what? It's like so since Grace died, I do a lot of speaking about stillbirth and stuff, and the reaction I get to me is overwhelming, and I just can't. Sometimes I struggle to process it, and Siobhan says it's because she goes, you're getting it because you're expressing things which suddenly make people feel not alone.
Yeah.
Out loud. And you can't sort of overestimate the importance of that, I think. So no, this is great. And I've just gone to her website. I'm just looking through some of them and I'm like, yeah, I know that one. I know that. Yeah. Yep. Good one. Especially there's one where she goes to see a therapist.
Yeah.
And she starts crying and he goes, I'll nip and get some tissues. She's like, why wouldn't you have tissues with you in this line of work? And I was going, but before I got to that panel, I was thinking the same thing because having done some counselling, I was like, walked in, there was tissues on the table. Why hasn't this guy got his tissues ready? don't you know what I mean? No, nice.
And I think for me, there's one where she gets to the bottom of the stairs and and there's two dogs, and one dog's big fluffy because the way that dog does the depression is in a more kind of friendlier way. Then the other smaller, nastier dog, he's literally, you're worthless. And there's one where she gets to the bottom of the stairs and the dog's just sitting in front of the stairs, the big dog saying, don't go out, outside's dangerous and stuff. And literally today, I'm at home today and Sue's off. Sue's gone to work. And I've been quite struggling of late. And I wanted to go out to the shop. I really, just to get some food in, get some stuff in, just trying to start to eat a bit healthier. And I was struggling to leave the house once. A part of me didn't really want to leave the house. And because there was a part of me that didn't want to leave the house, I had to make myself get up and go out.
Yeah.
And so seeing things like that, and because you're automatic, the place you go to when any of these things happen is you just think, I'm alone, I'm being stupid. I bet no one else is this stupid. And when you see things like that, you kind of realise actually everyone's dealing with things in their own way, and we don't often talk about it. So, you know what I mean?
Too damn right. Too damn right.
And I think go on.
Well, I'm just looking for some of the stuff. One of the things I've decided with my daughters is that I want them to grow up with a sense of looking for help and being able to cry. That don't make you not strong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In fact, it may make you a little bit stronger because you can face that and go, you know what, feeling like this is normal. Now, once I recognise it's normal, now I can know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think these, to sort of, round it all up in a big bow, but I think these last two comics, and in some ways the Alias comic you talked about and stuff, this is this point we keep trying to hammer home with comics. And as much as I love the Marvel movies and DC, kind of the DC movies,
yeah,
there is a part of it which is doing a disservice to comics now, because comics cover all genres. You know what I'm saying? And so many people do not realise that these kind of comics exist. So a comic which deals with depression in a way and puts it in a way that you can kind of really get to grips with and stuff. This is the sort of thing you could have in a doctor's surgery.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But the message that's still getting out there, and Porcelain is just, if you're doing it, I don't know, English language, or I don't know with Porcelain, but I suppose what I'm trying to get around the head is comics isn't just DC and Marvel. And I think the problem that we have with
and kicking ass.
Kicking ass, and the problem that we have with these films, as much as I love them, is it is still saying to the audience which doesn't really read comics, this is all there is. So all that stuff that you liked as a kid, that's still there. That's all we do. There's nothing else going on. And it annoys me that when they do films which are adapted from comics, there's no pompous ceremony around it.
Yeah.
And
I hear you.
It's only when we sort of talk about it, or I talk to someone and they sort of go, oh yeah, whatever film, and I'll say, oh, that was a comic. Really? Nah. I thought comics is all capes and
Well, that's all. What you get out of that is people going, I don't really like comics, all that superhero stuff. I'm like, what? No, stop. It's you know what? When we started Geek Syndicate 12 years ago, I just remember we having discussions about, people need to realize that comics is a medium. And, many more people watch comic book movies now, but lots of people still don't realize comics is a medium. How are we still in that place?
Yeah. And I know for me, like growing up, comics were a lifeline in that it took me a long time to really get my reading head on. And a lot of my peers were off reading fantasy books and Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and I couldn't get through them. Because, as I said, I hadn't developed that reading to be able to sit and read these big books and stuff. I got there in the end, but what helped me to get to that point was the fact that I could go and get comics. And I was reading Europe, which I didn't realise obviously were European, but I was reading your Tintins and your Asterix and stuff, as well as your Marvel and DC. But just reading those comics told me that there was something different out there. It wasn't just capes and tights.
Yeah.
So when I got older, I was able to start looking for those types of comics as well.
Well, that's the thing with like Japanese and sort of Korean comics which they call manga, but essentially it's another word for comics. You can find, self-help comics. The range of genre in it is inexhaustible out there. It's amazing and fantastic. And we've got a long way to go to catch up in terms of just our perception of what comics is in this country. Still.
Yeah. So, anyway, rant over.
So having said all that, I've got a mainstream DC comic to tell you about.
And we're back in the room.
Yeah, there you go. But this came about because I'm still, my Black Panther movie still going around my head. Yeah, 3 times I've seen it in the movie. In the cinema. I could do another one. I just loved it that much. But for me, Christopher Priest did the sort of ultimate Black Panther run in the comics.
Oh yes, I've read the first 6 issues of this now.
How'd you find it?
How I found it was surprising in that was not what I was expecting at all.
Nice. It's not, is it? It's not.
Not at all. It's great, don't get me wrong, it's brilliant, but it just wasn't completely circumvented my expectations for it, and masterfully so.
It's not your straight run-of-the-mill superhero kicking ass story, is it?
No.
There's so much around. I need to reread it. There's so much going on in there. But Christopher Priest, after being out of comics for years, I think he even took up bus driving at one point, stuff. So out of the blue, DC Comics called him and said, "Oh, we'd like you to write Deathstroke." And he's apparently his response was, "So is Deathstroke black now?" Because he got used, because he's a black guy. He got used to only being asked to write black characters.
Yeah.
So he goes, "Oh, I'm the black comics guy then, rather than the comics guy."
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Yeah, they're only asking me because Deathstroke's black." And they're like, No, he's white. We just want you to write him." It's like, "Oh, okay." And so I thought, you know what? I was so enamored of what he did with Black Panther.
Yeah.
I feel like I owe it to him for those hours of pleasure I got from them comics to give Deathstroke a read. So Deathstroke the Terminator is a character in DC, and he's a bad guy, and I don't usually like reading bad guy comics. He's a bad guy. He's enhanced, so he's got, reflexes, healing ability, blah blah blah. He's also got the ability to like look at his foes and kind of anticipate their moves. Mm-hmm. So he's hard to beat, and I think, I'm not sure Batman's even sure he could take him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he's got this story. So he's writing Deathstroke, the Terminator, is this assassin, and he's got a daughter called Rose who he trained to be an assassin, and she was in the Teen Titans before DC revamped their world and whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's amazing, but you really have to concentrate.
Oh, okay. That doesn't surprise me, though.
It's non-linear. Right. And how you even plot something like that, I don't know. But like you get to you get halfway through the second trade and you go, "Oh, that relates back to," do you know what I mean? Things like that. And you're just like, wow. And it's trying to work out, who's put a hit on his daughter. And when you find out who it is, you're just like, what? And let me tell you, he should get the award for worst father in the world. I mean, literally worst father in the world. It's a bit like the very first page he's taking his kids hunting. It's because he's only got one eye, but before he lost his eye, he was taking his kids on a hunting trip. And he just said something really rough to his young son. So the kind of kid storms off, and this hungry bear comes out, and he's like, screaming. He's like, "Dad!" And then so he turns up, he shoots the bear. And he looks at his son, who's like, this little boy is whimpering on the ground, almost being killed by this bear. And he goes, "If you hadn't been such a wuss, I wouldn't have had to do that." I'm like, wow, dude, man.
Of tough love.
You know what I mean? But no, I don't even know how to explain what's going on. There's just so many strands, and I don't know, and it's learning who Deathstroke is and why he's such an arsehole and a badass and all the rest of it, and the people I don't even know, man. It reminds me a little bit of John Wick because he's caught up in that assassin lifestyle and
right, okay.
The code of it works, but he's just, and then he gets involved with Batman, and you're just like, this is a proper battle of wits. Yeah, and he goes, "Yeah." Bat was like, "No, I'm not doing that. That's what he wants me to do." But obviously, he knows I'm not going to do that because that's what he wants me to do. So I'm going to do this instead. And you just like, It's like, and like, you know, his daughter's like with Batman going, yeah, my dad wants to find out who's would have hit on me. And he goes, yeah, that's what he told you. Your dad already knows. So we're going to do this instead. And it's like, it's just intense. I can't even, yeah, it's worth reading, but you got to pay attention. Don't read it. Don't read it when you try to relax, man. You got to turn your brain on. I don't feel like I'm selling it because I don't know how to. And I think that may have always been the problem with Christopher Priest's writing.
Right.
It's so bloody clever. How do you sell it to the masses?
But I mean, to be honest, I think given what I've read of Black Panther so far, because I have to say there's been a couple of issues I had to reread.
Yeah.
To begin with, I kind of skimmed through the first issue because I was like, "Hey, this is clever, isn't it?" You know. And then I got to the end, and I was like, "Hang on a minute, what?"
No, that's what I did at the end of the first trade of Deathstroke. I went, "I'm gonna have to go back, aren't I?" Yeah. And I didn't, and I kind of regret that I didn't.
But I think so. Would this struggle? I suppose the question I would ask is, would you, because you've bought this as trades, then?
Yeah.
Would you have struggled if these had been single issue with a month gap between them?
But as a young man, maybe not. As an older guy with lots going on, and do you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. In my mind, you need to be able to turn back a few pages and have it easily to hand.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than go, which issue was that? You got it all in the safe. You could just scroll back and yeah. No, I get it as trade, man.
Okay. So how many trades are out now?
3.
3 trades. Okay.
Yeah, I've read 2.
Is it 3 trades and done, or 3 trades it's still going?
I don't know, you know.
Oh, okay. Because these days they seem to be cancelling and titles left, right, and centre, and then all of a sudden there's like a number 1 again and stuff. So.
Yeah, but there was one standalone story in one of the trades called Chicago, and it was like the artists and the colorists were the guys who originally worked on the Question series, who were like one of my favourite series ever.
Okay. And
I read it, and I was like, "Did Christopher Priest write this?" And I went, "Yeah, he did," but it was written. You could tell this was a tribute to the Question.
Right.
And I was like, "This dude's good," because suddenly it was as if it was the original Question writer.
Okay.
And you go, okay, this guy loved the Question. He must have done, because it was on point as a Question story. But yeah, no, I'm just all over it. Even though I don't like reading bad guy stories, but there you go. Yeah, good luck.
But see, my thing is, I don't have a problem with capes and ties. I think, you know what I mean, all of it, comics, I mean, they can all exist on Spectrum.
Yeah.
But I just need to find a better way to communicate the fact that it is a Spectrum somehow, and that message just isn't getting out there. And I don't know. I don't know how that can change. Will it ever change? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So
there it is. Let us know what you think about our movies, the comics, the stuff that we've been reading. Oh, I read a book. I'll tell you about that next time. Yeah. I read a book. So let us know, and you know how to do it. You can email us at thegeeks@geeksyndicate.co.uk. You can get us on Twitter, Geek Syndicate. We're on Facebook. We're on Pinterest. We're on, what's the other one? Instagram. So check us out. Get in touch. Let us know what you're thinking. Don't forget to check out geeksyndicate.co.uk, and there you can find all the other podcasts under our network. And of course, if you fancy donating to our Patreon, then go for it. Go for it. And you'll get a little bit extra every time. A little bit extra. A little bit extra. Yeah. Everyone loves a little bit extra.
Yeah. And
that's us done. So, Geek Syndicate, we out.